Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gary Null, broadcasting live from our studios in New York City. And if you want to watch the program, you can do that by, one day later, you can download it on YouTube as well as on Facebook. Today, we're going to start off with the latest on health and healing, including brand new scientific information. This is the first place you're going to hear about it. They've been able to find RNA within plants that really benefit our own RNA. In other words, every time you take in a microRNA from plants, you are healing the body. Really revolutionary. And that's very exciting. I'll share that with you. Also, most people get their protein in America, over 95%, from animal sources. I'm going to share two things today. One is why you don't need anything from an animal ever. I'm talking about never having to consume, as a choice, anything that has a heartbeat or a face. What's the science behind that? And then a special commentary from Barbara King from Eon, The Pig on Your Plate. That pig was smart, sensitive, and how can we justify killing them for food? So that'll be our commentary on nutrition today. I'm also going to show you how even something as simple as peas, green peas, have a high degree of protein in them. Now, they don't sound exotic or exciting, but they're right up there with the best of the plant-based proteins and inexpensive. So I'll give that insight to you as well. And like it or not, broccoli is good for you. And broccoli is really healing and preventing cancer. The latest information on broccoli from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, and the green pea information from Washington State University, and the microRNA from Green Med, and a lot more on health and healing. Also, I played yesterday a young woman in a singing contest. She was 9 years old, who sang beautiful opera and surprised everyone. I found another one. This one was singing, I think she's 9 or 10, in front of a group of judges who've never heard her before. And I've edited out, because it was in Dutch, the conversation before, and just let you hear her voice. So I thought in our first break you would appreciate that. Just remember, that's a little 9-year-old who's able to create such beauty. Let's begin. Where I grew up, I don't believe anyone ever ate anything healthy in their entire lives, unless it was my mom and her aunts and my uncles during the Great Depression, when they were growing up also. They were born in the 1920s, but they lived that hard life, and I know that my mother and her sisters all ate healthy because they all lived during the Great Depression on my great aunt's farm. And she was one of the most remarkable people I've ever met. She was wiry. She was strong. I remember when she was in her 80s, or might be even 90s, I was young, and it was in Little Hocking, Ohio, and she was shaking apples out of a tree. She was up in the tree, and I was supposed to catch the apples, pick them up off the ground. And she ran that farm her whole life. Well, during the Depression, that's where a lot of people lived, not just my mother's family, but also strangers. And of course, everything was organic, and it was one of these unique model farms where they had at least 50 different types of fruit trees. And in the fruit, they would find a fruit cellar. They had a root cellar. You walk down this, let's say, steps for about 8 feet, and then you're at about 55 degrees. It's just one of those wonderful things. We don't have many more. We should. Root cellars keep the temperature, no matter how hot or cold it is upstairs, even. And that's where you store your root vegetables, like sweet potatoes and yams and apples, etc. Pears, they last a long time. But then she also told him how to dry it, cutting it and putting it on screens and letting it with little cloth over it so it didn't get eaten by the birds or insects. And then they had barrels, huge 55-gallon drum barrels, all lined with bee propolis to prevent bacterial infection. And that's, by the way, the same for a beehive. That bee propolis, which is kind of a black, sticky, you get it on your fingers, you have to really wash it off. But that is one of nature's most perfect natural antibiotics. And that's what the bees use to keep their hive clean. But in folk medicine, taking a quarter teaspoon of this wonderful natural antibiotic, bee propolis, with some honey and stirring that into apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon, was one of the best remedies in the world for everything. Colds, flu, sore throat, upset stomach. It helps with everything. And by the way, still does. Something that is that old and that important should not be forgotten today. And so vegetables galore, herbs, by over 100 different herbs, culinary herbs and medicinal herbs, because back then you couldn't afford a doctor, maybe wasn't one nearby, so you had to have enough knowledge of just basic health that you could go into a barn, and there'd be little brown bags, and the bag would have dried herbs with the name of the herb written on it and the date. And that way you could have tinctures or dried, put them in teas or food. And that's what she did. And she was a vegan. And they made their own breads. Everything was self-sufficient. And so therefore they ate healthy. Now there was a time when Americans ate that way. A lot of Americans did, when it was more rural American. Not that they were all vegan, they weren't. But for those that were poor, you didn't want to sacrifice your cow because it did the plowing and it gave you milk. But Americans, as long as they did not succumb to, let's say, non-pasteurized milk that could contain different bacteria that could hurt a person or some of the infectious disease, they lived pretty good lives. Now we jump ahead. And today, most people don't eat healthy. I wish they did, but that's conditioning, propaganda, advertising. And as I got a call last night from Bertold Reimers, called me around 11 o'clock. He said he was running in Central Park. He'd been working so hard he hadn't had a chance to exercise, so he went for a run. He plays soccer, likes to keep fit. And he said, Gary, we got to do something. I said, what's that? He said, people are lazy. I said, some are, yes. A lot aren't. I said, now, are you talking about the ones who are lazy or the ones who are not? No, the ones who are. If you're lazy, the likelihood is you're not going to eat right. If you're not going to eat right, then you're going to get sick. You're going to get diabetes, you're going to be overweight, you're going to have high blood pressure, and you're going to die. And we don't want to see that. Work out a protocol for them. So today I'm working out a protocol, and hopefully we'll present it tomorrow. And where everyone in this audience who wants to get healthy can. But let's now go to the other side of that. Let's look at the tens of thousands of people in this audience who have been making healthy choices and who are healthier because of it, living longer lives, who have not come down. One day they wake up and they're 60, they're 70, they're 80 and think, am I missing something? Am I missing diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis, memory loss, aging skin, falling out of hair, muscle fatigue, impotent? I don't have any of that stuff. Yeah, and there's a reason why you don't. And it's not by accident, and it's not genes. This whole myth of genes can only really help you 4 years on either side, but they don't change the quality of your life, just merely extend it a bit or shorten it a bit. But you can completely change that. So now imagine all the vegetables and fruits that you've been eating. And think of those of you who went one step further and have been juicing. And one step further and had concentrates, or even the ultimate concentrated powders. In any measure that you've been consuming, you have been changing your DNA, even if you weren't aware of it. Now, yes, there's studies. There's over 1,000 studies in the peer-reviewed literature about what we'll call the Mediterranean diet. And by the way, in the 1960s and 70s, it was the Okinawa diet. And before that, it was the Crete diet, because the longest-lived people in the world by small population are in the island of Crete. And if you've ever been to Crete, you know they eat a lot of purslane, which we think is a weed, and we throw it away. Never. It's crispy. It hasn't almost like a cucumber, except it's kind of flat, about the size of a nickel. And you eat the whole vine, little brown vine, and it's loaded with nutrition. But they also eat a lot of herbs in their food. If you've gone into any of the kitchens in the Mediterranean area, notice if they really enjoy cooking, which most do. And I can honestly say I never had a bad meal in Italy, France, or Spain. I never had a good meal in Ireland, Scotland, England, or Wales. Maybe that's just me. Other people, I'm sure, maybe things today have changed. I got to go back over there in the near future, and I'm just anticipating what the next meal I'll have when I go to Iceland next week. But there are places in the world where you just can't get a bad meal because food is so important, and they really are masters of it. And so you'll go into a kitchen and you'll see dozens of herbs beyond rosemary and thyme and dill and oregano that we have here, or the spices that you'll see in the Middle East or in the Far East, like cumin and turmeric and allspice. In any case, what's happening when you take these things? Now we have science that shows it's actually changing your DNA. It's reversing aging of your DNA. It's protecting your DNA. And as long as something is protecting it, reducing free radicals, stopping the cytokines from destroying your cells, turning off the inflammatory process, then allowing reparative, restorative material to your DNA, you're going to live a longer life. You're going to be healthier. That brings me to this. Quote, new research is exploding into scientific journals detailing exciting ways in which foods interact with the expression of our genes. And in fact, there's a whole new field of study known as Nutrigenomics. Now, you probably have never heard of Nutrigenomics, but it's all new, researching the effects of foods and food constituents on gene expression. Recently, there's been a major development in nutrigenics that opens the possibility that successfully preventing and treating many diseases may be as simple as administering vegetables and medicinal herbs to deliver specific factors known as microRNAs, ribonucleic acids. And the first step in transferring the genetic code of DNA occurs via a process called transcription. And during transcription, the double helix strand of DNA is split and then transcribed into a parallel single-stranded RNA molecule. And then it goes on to talk about how we never thought of the vegetables and fruits we have as being a part of this process. We thought of eat an orange, eat an apple, get some vitamin C. Eat a vegetable, get a little chlorophyll. No. There are hundreds of phytonutrients per vegetable and fruit. So every time you take these in, you are now transferring that code, that transcription, into your own DNA process. You become what you eat. Now, that's the good news. So the more vegetables and fruits that you eat, the more benefit to your DNA and the younger you stay. Then I'll add in exercise and you lengthen your telomeres. And remember, the telomeres are the end caps of chromosomes. And when we're eating the wrong food, pizzas, hot dogs, hamburgers, french fries, steaks, you're speeding it up. Alcohol speeds it up. Cooking at high heat speeds it up. French fries speed it up. So the faster that your DNA is changing, the shorter your lifespan, because you only have so many cell divisions in your whole life. So imagine this. Imagine that you're in a movie theater and you're watching a good film. The film's about you. You're the film. It's your life. And you're looking at yourself at different stages of your life, and suddenly it starts to go a little faster. And then in about 30 seconds, you're going very fast, like you put the film in fast forward. And at the side is a clock showing you how much time until the film is over and your life's over. Wouldn't reason and common sense say, whoa, let's slow this down? Yeah. So when you exercise on a regular basis, you're slowing down the cell division. When you juice and you eat properly, you're slowing down the cell division. When you de-stress, you're slowing down the cell division. When you take the right supplements, you slow down the cell division. You actually lengthen the time of division, hence lengthening telomeres. What's nice is for those of you who've been coming to retreats and workshops, health support groups, or just individual counseling over the last 45 years, think of all the diseases that you have not or will not suffer from. Think of the extra quality years of life you have or have had because you've made simple choices. Now the science is actually catching up to what you've done. So that's just good news all the way around. Of course, the other side of that is, if you do just the opposite, then, as Bertold says, people are lazy. Some are, and they will die sooner. They'll suffer from diseases, and their life will be substantially limited versus the quality of life that they deserve and should enjoy. So, just something to think about. From Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, a new study, and it says the following: like it or not, broccoli is good. Turns out our mothers may have been on to something when they told us to eat our vegetables, especially our broccoli. A compound found naturally in broccoli and other cruciferous vegetables may reduce some of the harmful effects of type 2 diabetes in overweight adults. Well, that's 30 million adults right there, and then add in another 70 million adults who suffer from pre-diabetes, but they're going to end up with diabetes and the same neuropathy, the same heart disease. An article in the journal Science Translational Medicine shows that they found that the broccoli has extreme healing capacity, and they did all this studies and 2 years of work on this. Quote, the broccoli demonstrated the compound's effectiveness in boosting the body's ability to resist cancer. And they said having broccoli 3 to 4 days a week, 50 to 100 grams, that's a small amount. 50 to 100 grams, well, that's only like 3 ounces. So have yourself 3 ounces of broccoli. That's only about 2 little crowns. That's not much. And then they found over 100 scientific papers that support this. So, for those who want to help prevent cancer, they have found different sulfur-bearing nutrients that are not only anti-diabetic, but also anti-cancer in the broccoli. That's good. So that's what we want. And finally, green peas. I mentioned at the beginning of the program. This is from Washington State University, and here's what it says. There is low awareness of the beneficial effects of green pea in many countries, despite growing evidence of clear health effects, and the new research published in Nutrients suggests that eating green peas could block several damaging effects of a high-fat diet. So what they're saying here is this. If you're the average person, you're having way too much fat in a diet. Also, you're having a type of fat called arachidonic acid that comes from having a meat-based diet, chicken, meat, pork, etc. And that's not good for you. So by having peas, that will help mitigate that. And if you want to start by having it in a simple way, just take some fresh peas or organic frozen. And then when you make some brown rice, just stir it in. It's that simple. And we're going to wrap up our health segment today with a little commentary. This is from Eon Magazine from Barbara King. I'll quote her because it's a good piece. Domestic pigs, the kind portrayed in hot pink neon above barbecue joints, curly tails, and carefree, have prodigious memories. In problem solving with computers, they match wits with little kids and win. They are able to plan ahead, and they live in complex social communities. They recognize other pigs as distinct individuals. Pigs just aren't cerebral, though. They have heart. When others are in distress, they can express concern and act with empathy. A description of pig behaviors derived from scientific experiments and compiled by a group of scientists is so impressive you might think it was about chimpanzees or elephants or whales. We eat pigs, though, and we eat them on a scale unparalleled in comparison with the rate at which we consume other brainy mammals. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, pork is the most consumed meat in the world. Of course, storytelling about pigs as individuals invites people to think differently about pork and bacon. But what does science, the kind of science revived and reviewed now about animals, what does it say? And it says this, that pigs are very empathetic and intelligent. And it goes into some of the research they've done in a major paper called The Way Humans Behave Modulates the Emotional State of Piglets. And it says, the conclusions reached that gently handled pigs showed more positive emotional states than roughly handled or neglected ones, conveys a larger message that we have a way to go before it's the starting point, not the big reveal that farmed animals have emotions and are affected by how we treat them. A good deal of the science writing on pigs aims to increase awareness of pigs' capacities so that they are treated better. And then it talks about how Cambridge University professor Donald Broom and others discovered that pigs with only 5 hours of experience can use a mirror to find the location of a hidden object. And they were faster at it than kids. And also they beat kids on cognition. Their cognition is formable. Quote, the biologist Candace Cromie at Purdue University in Indiana described the cognitive research she had done on pigs, and she said that at the beginning she thought the pigs were just kind of dumb and dirty animals, but she found out that they were just the opposite. Her careful research proved her low expectations wrong. In an ingenious experiment, she and her colleagues carried wooden blocks shaped with X and O's around the pigs. Only the O's carried food for the pigs. The pigs soon followed the O and not the X carriers. Now, next, the researchers, no longer carrying wooden blocks, wrote T-shirts marked with either X or O's, and the pigs transferred their knowledge to a new situation. They approached only the O's wearing that, and they got the meaning of the symbol flattened to 2 dimensions from 3. She also tested pigs along with young human children on a computer exercise. The goal was to move a joystick to a target. By snout for the porcine study participants, by hand for the small human ones, the pigs were better at it than the toddlers. And what a mental and emotional fears would pigs need to pull people off consuming them? Then it goes on to talk about, the rest of the article talks about how in every measure pigs showed extreme understanding. Now, from my own perspective, since I am an animal rescuer and have been my entire adult life, and I've rescued over 3,000 animals, meaning people bring me hurt, diseased animals that they didn't have the heart to euthanize, and so they dropped them off. I walk out one day and there's a box saying this is an old dog, and I don't have the heart to see him die at the vet's. So I brought him here. Well, I've never euthanized an animal, ever, though I was told I had to, starting with, it was 26 horses that we found at a farm that were so out of condition, they were on the ground, they couldn't get up. They were just skin. And the vet, Dr. Morris, says, we got to put them down. I said, no. He said, you can't help these creatures. They can't even stand. I said, you can't help them, but I have never euthanized. I'm not going to. So I went about getting these large, giant syringes and filling with my special, compounds that I put together for the animals. And just all day, every day, squeezing them down their throats, massaging their bodies, putting healing energy in, spending time with them, playing them music, and we didn't have a single death. They all got up in time. They all got their weight back. Took about a year. And they were so healthy that they were healthier than they had been in their life. And then we found them a 3,000-acre sanctuary in Canada and shipped them up to Canada. And even with these dogs, even with old. By the way, you want to see something that's unique? For those of you who, don't think that you can make a difference in an animal's life, I'm posting today, as far as I can see anywhere, the oldest living ringtailed lemur in the world, ever. She's 31, and some of you will remember her because she was a rescue, her and her siblings, from an abusive family down in Texas. And back in 1989, she was down there, and I was recovering them all. And she was the one that she would come over when kids from a local school would come by, handicapped kids who wanted to be around the animals, and I'd bring her and the others over, and they would play with the animals on their, make them a little lunch and let these wonderful. She's still alive. She's still alive, healthy as can be, and she's out all day. And all the other animals respect her. Oh, they all go up to her, and like they know that she's the wise, great woman, and they never harass her, never challenge her in any way. And then in the evening, she finds a comfortable place to go in, and we make sure she's secure. That's the only time that she's in a secured environment, because I don't want any bobcat eating her. But in the daytime, she's out all day. And she has a special diet. In fact, I've just changed the diet yesterday to put more anti-aging nutrients in. She's 31 years old. 31. Now go up and Google ringtailed lemurs and see how long they normally live. And completely healthy. So the idea that we have to say, the vet said I got to put the dog down, they got to put the cat down, they're old. Yeah, they're right. And then I say you don't have to. There's a lot you can do to reverse cancers and arthritis and pain in dogs and cats, horses. You can. More on that in an upcoming program. Now, so here's a little pig, and it was dropped off. And it was, mind you, a lot of people say it's a miniature potbelly. 99% are not miniatures. They'll grow up to be, 400 pounds, 300 pounds. They eat a lot, but when they're small, they're very small. You could put them in the palm of your hand. And you talk about smart. They're smarter than dogs and cats. They're very loyal, and they're always curious. And if you go jogging, like I go jogging, the little thing be jogging right beside me. And then I go in, jump in the pool, do laps. She jumps in the pool and does laps. And then it's time for rest. She rests. And her favorite place to rest was she would find beautiful, my long-haired Dotson miniature, and she'd go and curl right up in her belly. That's where she loved to sleep. Smart as can be. So the next time you think about eating pork, just realize that's a very sentient, sensitive, spiritual energy that you don't need to eat. We don't need animal proteins. It's out of print, but if you can get one up on Amazon, get a copy of The Egg Project. I think it went into 17 printings. it was based upon the work I did at the Institute of Applied Biology, where I was a research fellow in anti-aging medicine and nutritional science. And I did a study showing that all vegetables and grains and nuts and seeds and legumes have all 8 essential amino acids. Therefore, there is no reason we need to eat any animal, because we're getting the 8 essential amino acids from these other vegan-based foods, plant-based foods. Not only that, but we're also getting fiber that meat doesn't give you. We're giving a full spectrum of phytonutrients that the meat doesn't give you. We are protecting the environment. There's no methane released. It takes 60 gallons of water to grow a potato. It takes 3,200 gallons of water for the amount of what you get in the meat of a hamburger. A hamburger, 3,200 gallons. And we're growing 60 billion animals in the world each year for human consumption. Such a waste. And if there's one thing we can all do to help do our part for global warming, is go vegan. Eat local, eat organic, support farmers, organic farmers. Go against GMOs, challenge them. And you're going to be healthier. All the science is on that side of the equation. All of it. And I have hundreds of thousands of studies in our archives, some peer-reviewed literature supporting it. Meat, they have nothing on their side. Oh, they do. Lots of studies showing increased breast cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, heart attack, stroke, inflammation. Yeah, that's what they've got. So there's no reason, no legitimate reason, to ever again have to consume anything with a heartbeat or a face. And by the way, that includes fish. Now we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to hear, for the remainder of our program, all about police becoming bigger thieves than organized crime in its entirety, and all burglars combined in the United States, but they're legally allowed to steal. But here now is a young little girl singing her heart out, and listen to her voice.
Niet te geloven, echt.
Absolutely spectacular.